All right, let me check Facebook. All right, let me just check one thing real quick. Okay, should be going live. So I thank everybody for tuning in tonight. We have a lot going on with recruiting and exposure. There's a lot of families and athletes that have been reaching out, wanting to know the best route to take. So each Monday, we've been having a series of talks, talking about the process, how you build exposure, how to get your name on the radar. And today, we have some special guests. All right. So last weekend, we had Director of Recruiting, Hank C., and he's back today just to get some feedback and talk a little bit about recruiting. But our two special guests, all right, we have Koy Detmer, former Philadelphia Eagle quarterback, professional quarterback, star at Colorado when he was there, putting up numbers every single year, and now head coach at Somerset High School in Texas. Had a great run this year, got to the second round of the playoffs, and next year they're going to win state. I know it's going to happen. And then we also have Maurice Polk here. He coached with me in high school. He was my associate head coach for multiple years. Then he said, you know what, I want to branch out and get to the next level. So he started coaching at the collegiate level. Was at Bowie State for a little bit. Now at Division I, Howard University as assistant D-line coach. So he has a lot of knowledge as well. So we have a few topics that we're going to go over. And I'm excited to be able to have this conversation, gentlemen. So thank you for joining me tonight. Do you guys have anything to say before we get into the topics? You guys want to add on?
Appreciate you. Yeah, appreciate y'all having us on here.
Yeah, definitely. It's always a pleasure to hop on stuff like this and kind of get some insight to what's going on nowadays with recruiting and just any just general knowledge. So I appreciate you for having me on the show.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys as well. All right, so we're gonna get right into it because there's a lot of families that have been asking certain questions and they want to get the right feedback so they can put their son or daughter in the right position for recruiting. So topic number one, I did a post about this a couple of days ago, and I thought about my journey when I was growing up. Coming from Delaware, 3 counties, I talk about my story all the time. It was tough to get on the radar of college programs because small state, a lot of the major universities weren't coming in. And even to this day, I talk to a lot of coaches and they say, I have some talent, but it's hard to get them on the radar. So I was trying to get these connections forever, going into my senior year, little to no interest. And then finally, someone who's well connected connected me with some college coaches, and then it started to blow up. But there's families that are saying, my program that I go to, the coach doesn't assist, or we're a 1A program, and colleges say that's not great talent to be able to evaluate players and figure out, are they going to be a good fit for our major university? So just want to open up with that, with my story, how it was difficult for me. And then other people coming from, it could be small town Texas, it could be small town California somewhere, just talking about that journey. How does where an athlete live, how does it affect their recruiting visibility? Coming from smaller programs, is that a disadvantage? And if so, what would you advise families to do to overcome some of those obstacles that they say is limiting their exposure for their child? So I know I talked about it a little bit, but I just want to hear about your guys' thoughts on that. If I'm coming from a small program and my coach might not be well connected and doing some of the things that might be needed to get to the next level and build that exposure and those connections, what would you tell a family if they say, hey, coach, what should I do in my situation to build that exposure? So let me go to Koy first. Koy, I know you're a coach. Your son is a college coach, and you've helped place a lot of kids at the next level. What would you tell a family that's going through some of that right now? What could they do to kind of break through and get their name out there?
Yeah, well, you definitely hit on something that it can be an issue. I coached down at Mission High School, which is down in the valley, for 5 years before I came back up here to Somerset. And down in the valley in Texas, it's removed from a lot of the major cities and all of that kind of stuff. And so, with recruiting nowadays, limited on hours, all the dead time, and all of those things, the coaches just simply in a time constraints and things like that, generally are going to hit the bigger areas, Dallas and Houston and San Antonio, the bigger areas where maybe it's a little more saturated with talent and those kind of things. And so it can be tough. And so for those kids that are in those kind of situations, I think it's important that they get out and get to some of the college camps, get out to some of the camps where they can get exposure and help get on the radar, because you could be limited with the traffic of coaches coming by to visit and all those kind of things. Being up here in the San Antonio area, it's much easier. We have a lot of colleges right here in our backyard and here in Texas, and so it's easier for schools to get by and come through and see our kids. But I know being removed down in the valley, that was a challenge, and we had to really work to help get our kids out there and get exposure for them.
Gotcha. Yeah, it makes
Hey,
sense.
Coach, do you mind if I ask you a question real quick? I know you real well now, and I think you have a unique story as far as how you recruited, you and Ty. I mean, y'all went to smaller schools. I mean, y'all weren't at big schools either, and y'all came into this thing when Texas was a running state. It was all run, and your dad, Sonny, was really introducing that passing game to Texas. So can you kind of explain how it worked for you and kind of give the kids how you got to Colorado and your brother to BYU?
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously it was a much different time. There
Yes.
was not even internet and all of that back then. So we were sending out tapes and all of that kind of stuff. But no, so for my brother, obviously he was doing big things in the passing game and uh, putting up some yards and having success. The team was having success, so naturally that led coach's eyes to see what was happening there. And so my brother kind of hit the scene that way, and then went and found which schools would fit his skill set. I think that's real important, is especially for a quarterback position, finding schools that are going to run an offensive style that fits what you do. And so BYU at that time was that situation for my brother. So he ended up going there. Obviously, him having a lot of success in college, I'm 5 years younger. It kind of paved the way. It made it easier to for me to have eyes on me to see what I was doing. So that was a big benefit for my path. And I play in Mission, so I was coming out of the valley, which you don't get a lot of traffic down there, but because my brother had gone through and was having success, that made things a lot easier for my path, getting exposure and getting out there. So and then I ended up going to Colorado with Coach Bill McCartney, and had a great career there and a lot of fun. And so was fortunate to play on a lot of good teams and with a lot of great players. So that was my path, and for my brother and I.
Gotcha.
That's awesome. Thank you, Coach.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, Coach, let me pass it to you. You coming from
Yeah.
the Mid-Atlantic and coaching at Division II level and Division I level, high school coach. So just give your feedback on that. Delaware, Maryland,
Yeah.
smaller state. What's your feedback on that?
So, for small states, small high schools, I just feel like in this day and age, it's really going to be about what you do for yourself as far as marketing is concerned. You know, social media is a really, really big tool. It has to be used in a good way, though. And it's Shane. I know this is something that you always talked about as well. What does your social media page look like? You know what I mean? Like coaches are going to look at those things, but most importantly, how are you marketing yourself, on your social media page. One of the biggest things is something as simple as your name. You know what I mean? As a college football coach, I want to be able to look up your name and you know get to your page or whatever the case may be. Or I tell kids all the time, make sure that you know you have the things that you know we're looking for. Make sure your huddle film is up. You know, make sure you have a nice little detailed message, you know, outlining everything that coaches are looking for, grades, character, you know what I mean, and then obviously film. So like, and you just gotta, you know, get in the DMs and you gotta send it to coaches. Obviously that's the marketing side of it, but you definitely got to get the camps. Like Coy said, you have to get the camps. I feel like you can do a lot of things on film, but when you actually show up to these camps and coaches get eyes on you, I think that's a really, really huge part of it. And you know, you get in front of, you know, as a recruiting coach, I can say, hey, this kid can play, but, you know, for the position coach, for the person that has to coach them, you know, being able to put eyes on that kid and being able to physically, you know, see them, you know what I mean, do the things that's necessary for the position. I think that's a really big part of it. And, you know, one of the things we talk about with recruiting, you know, and you know, logistics is like you know, being at Bowie State. One of the things that, you know, we try to do was win the state, you know, and I think a lot of schools want to win their home state, but Bowie, like we had to do that. You know what I mean? Like the model was, hey, win the state. 95, 96% of the team was from Maryland. So we hit the Maryland schools hard. You know what I mean? We had mega camps. We made sure all those kids was, you know, able to attend those camps, and we was able to get eyes on those guys. So you know, a small school like Bowie State that's not really, you know, able to branch out far, you know, outside the state had to do a good job of winning in state. So I think just being able to market yourself, make sure, you know, your social media pages is clean and making sure that you putting yourself out there for coaches to see. Not saying that coaches are going to always get to their DMs, but, you know, sometimes when we do go through and we look through those, you know, you might find a little diamond in the rough. But for those small schools, you really have to stand out and you have to, you know, put yourself in front of coaches, you know, to be able to be recruited.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's great. We talked about that last time, Hank, getting your page set up the right way. I see so many kids don't even have their first and last name on there. They don't put their city and state. They don't even list what high school they attend or what position or their grad class. So that's one of the things I went over before is set up your page the right way. And then make sure you have film on there. You have to have your film to be evaluated. DMs open so you can have open communication. Some people have private pages and a coach can't even send you a message.
Right.
You know, make sure you have your NCAA number so they know that they can recruit you. You know, those small things like that have to get done. And you know, like I said, just market yourself. That's huge in this.
And one of the things, you know, actually, you know, being at the high school and coaching at a high school, 2024 at Dover, one of the things I tried to do is I wanted to make it easy for, you know, college coaches to be able to look at our guys with the spreadsheet. It's a small school, it's a small state, you know what I mean? I had to make sure that everything was the you know, from the name all the way down to the film and everything in between was right there in front of those coaches' eyes when I emailed them, because it's a small school. You know, it's a lot of schools that you can go get talent from outside of Delaware before you even get to Delaware. And then when you get to Delaware, what are the main schools that they're going to look at? You know, the Sallies, the Middletowns, the Smyrnas. So, you know, me being the head coach, I had to make sure that I cross my T's and dot my I's for those guys and made it easier for coaches and make them want to come in. Like I actually, you know, had to, you know, reach out to coach and say, hey, you know, come by, I got some guys that you might want to, you know, be interested in and might want to take a look at. So, you know, I think that piece is very, very important for those small states and those small schools as well, is the coach actually doing the due diligence for those kids as well.
Yeah. And I talk to a lot of parents and they say that's one of their concerns is the families don't feel that the coaches are going to do that. So if I'm going to be a junior and I don't have belief in my high school coach that they're going to be sharing out and our team is 5-5 every year, and I don't have any offers or no real interest, do I pack up and try to move and transfer to get to that power program? Or do I stay and say, you know what, I have 20 more games, 2 more years, I can make it happen and market myself? What direction do you say to a family to go? Do you stick it out and play it out and just do the whole outreach and marketing piece? Or if that opportunity is there, do you go to that bigger program or that bigger area, like Coach was saying, Houston, or go to DFW area? If I was in a small town, like that's a lot of families are going to ask that question. Right now, I have 20 games left, no interest, and my school is not really assisting me. What should I do, Coach? And I don't want to put you guys, on blast and have to give them this decision like that. But what you guys feelings kind of on that? I'm a junior. 5-5 season. My coach might not be helping me, but I know I have Division One-ish ability. What do you tell a family there? Do you pack up and go to a power program, or you stick it out?
I think I brought this up last week. It all comes down to realistic expectations. I mean, if you're not a D1 coach, I think where you got to make sure you understand where you fit in the pecking order. Some kids are D2, some kids are D3. They may be D1 later, but if you don't make a good choice chasing the schools from the beginning, you waste a lot of time. And time is something you don't have when you said, like you just said, you got 20 games left, 10 games left. You're a junior, going to be a senior. You're looking at it. You got to have realistic expectations and try to find where you fit in best to get that offer. It may not be a full offer, but a smaller offer. But it starts with me, with the kids that I deal with realistic expectations. And then once you have those ideas set, then you can start focusing on the schools that you want to look at.
I think Hank hit it on the nail with that one. Realistic expectations, because it'd be a lot of student athletes and parents, who, sorry parents, but gotta say it, who be wanting their kids to go to these bigger programs, and their kids are just not cut out for it. All right, let's just remove the athletic part. Is your kid waking up at a decent hour? Is they going to bed at a decent hour? Are they doing all the necessary things that comes along with becoming a D1 athlete? All of that matters, man. So if you're not, taking care of your body the way you're supposed to, if you're not working out, if you're not putting in extra work, and even if you do these things, it still doesn't guarantee that you're going to get the Division I offer that you want. So I try to make sure I'm 100% honest with the parent as well as the kid, letting them know that, hey, you can do all these things, but it still doesn't mean that you're going to get these offers. The coach has to like you, but you have to go in with the mindset of what comes along with being a Division I athlete, and the talent has to match. So on the field, off the field, wherever you're at, that has to be, Division I elite, effort in everything that you do. Everything you gotta have the talent on the field, and then honestly, like I said, you just got to be realistic with yourself. And as a coach, it's my job to be realistic with the parents as well as the kid. So even on a spreadsheet, I'll tell a kid, hey, listen, I got you tabbed as a Division II kid, not a Division I kid, because athletically, this is what's going on. Then I also look at your grades and I say, well, look at your grade. You got under a 2.0. There's no point of a college coach coming in even talking to you. A lot of things go into being a Division I athlete. It's not for everybody, but it doesn't mean that Division II football and Division III football is not good football. Guys have come from Division II and Division III football and gone on to do big things. So the realistic expectation, like Hank said, is the biggest part in a kid actually being successful and being able to get to whatever height that they're trying to get to.
Got you. What about you, Coach? I know.
Yeah. No, I think what both these guys said is exactly right. Just having those realistic expectations and understanding that the recruiting dynamics have changed dramatically over the years, and the way it is right now, you really have to do your part to put yourself out there and help people find you. You really have to do that. And even if you're at a big school and where you get traffic and all those things, you really have to be doing your part to help get yourself seen. And if you're doing that and maybe some things aren't happening, uh, it might tell you a little something about where you're at. You know what I mean? And so,
Agreed.
that's something that happens, and something that we talk to our kids about um, is if you're getting Division 2 and Division 3 schools, and that's kind of the traffic you're getting, that probably maybe where your fit is. If you're getting D1 traffic and those kind of things, then that's probably where you fit. And so that doesn't mean that, hey, right now you go to a D2. That doesn't mean that you might end up in a D1, right? And that's just the way today's day is you're going to get re-recruited every year, whether you want to or not. That's just the way it is. And so the bigger colleges are looking at the smaller colleges and, amongst themselves, and things get shuffled around. And then, and people have to understand also right now, a lot of schools take maybe half the number of high school kids they used to, and less. And because they're hitting the portal, they're recruiting the college level, junior college, the smaller schools. And so most kids' path nowadays has to be through the D2, D3, junior college, and then you take the next step. It's just what NIL and the portal and all those kind of things have created. And there's nothing wrong with that. My
100%.
nephew, who I feel is a really good quarterback, and I feel has Power 4 type measurables and talent. He's going to go to a Division 2 school, and that's just the path that he needs to take in order to go play and have fun. And maybe that leads to the next step, maybe it doesn't, but that's going to put him in the best situation possible. And so I think you just have to see it. It's there's a lot less Division 1 scholarships going out there to high school kids, and so be realistic on that. And then and so we push to our guys, get to the D3 camps, get to the D2 camps, start there, and start getting some traction if you can, and things will unfold from that point. But it's one of those things where you have to really be doing your part to help people find you. And if you're doing that and traction's not really happening, it might kind of tell you where you're at with some things, and kind of give you a clearer path from there, to get to maybe some smaller schools and maybe start there and then work your way up from that point. I mean, that's my take on it, and kind of what I'm seeing with kids we work with, but family and all of those kind of things. And just with Little Coy coaching there at the Division 1 level, knowing the process they go through. And, you're going to take the proven product first, the one that's already up there and playing
Agreed.
college ball. You know what I mean? And so that's just kind of where things are at right now.
Yeah.
Shannon, I wanted to follow up on this conversation and just go to the next step of it. I feel once you realize
topic too, which is the recruiting competition in NIL. So that's Coy kind of led into where we're going with that. So go ahead and elaborate on it.
I wanted to talk about once you find out where you belong. If you're in a bad situation, I see a lot of kids a lot of times that have been at a school and they sat for their freshman, sophomore, junior year. They were twos. They got limited playing time, maybe a game, total quarters, and they're down to that. They're great athletes, but they're just in a bad situation. There are other avenues. Like I brought it up last week. There's a guy that I work with named Reggie Buchanan. Great guy out of Mississippi, has a lot of connections with a lot of schools and stuff. If you're a D1 athlete, get a hold of me and I can steer you to him. If you are a D2 or a D3 guy, I know a bunch of schools. I know a lot of people that know a lot of schools. That send me your film. We can do a lot of back stuff. Hey, coach, I just found this guy over here at this high school. He's in a small school down in the Valley at Mission, whatever school it's going to be. Not a lot of looks down there. Here's his film. He's a great look. And you'd be surprised at how many kids we can get just college. And then we've got a bunch this year to college just doing that up at Concordia with Sevy Labril up there. Concordia University took some Texas boys this year. Coach Parr has down at Texas A&M Kingsville. So there's a lot of ways to do it, but it all starts with being honest with yourself. And Coach, you were right about that one deal too. When I say be honest, I'm not just talking about the kids. What I run into most of all, where all the trouble I see is not the kids being honest with themselves, but the parents. If the parents aren't honest with themselves, they can really blow this thing up. I've seen a lot of parents blow up great opportunities for their kids because they went on a school visit, thought their kid should be better at a bigger school, made those statements, made those comments, and guess what? Your kid don't get that offer there. So there's a lot of things that I would say mostly tonight geared toward the parents. Watch what you say when you go on visits. Watch how you talk to these schools, and don't talk about NIL money. Don't talk about any of those things when your son's approaching these schools trying to get a scholarship, because those coaches don't want to hear that. They want to know what kind of person you're going to be, how you're going to be on the team. Are you going to be a cancer? Is your parents going to, especially the smaller schools, the D2, D3 schools where they're smaller stadiums? I've heard a lot of coaches get upset because they got some crazy parents come in there and say a lot of crazy stuff, and it's more of a cancer on the team. So they look at that kind of stuff more than anything. So that's my part of this. I'm curious to see what you coaches have to say on that.
Yeah, well, I will say just one last part, because we didn't end up going into this direction, but there are sometimes, I think, kind of not as much as what happens out there. But there can potentially be a time where maybe you do, there's a great opportunity moving to another school. And so I'm not saying that that's not ever something to do or whatever and those kind of things. But, there sometimes can be a situation where, you can put yourself in a little better situation and, that kind of thing. So it's not just out of the question, but when you start doing that, there becomes having the means to be able to do it, making sure you're doing it the right way, not doing it with animosity toward people and all those kind of things, which creates negative energy and just burn bridges and all those kind of things, and also can create issues of when you do relocate and all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm not saying that there's not ever a time that it might make sense and things like that. Sometimes there is, and sometimes it's a really can be a beneficial thing, but doing it the right way is a critical part of that if that's the route that you go. So
Yeah, one of the things I think is important, like you got to ask yourself, player and parent, hey, if my kid is not getting the opportunity at the current school that he's at, where he already knows the system, whether it's on the offensive side or the defensive side, you now have to understand that when you go transfer to another school, you literally don't know the system. You have to learn that system, and you're fighting against other guys who've been in the system for a chance to be out on the field. So, it's like Coy just said, there's situations where, yeah, it might be a good situation to do that, but you also have to take into account, what does that look like? Leaving one school where I know a system, where I possibly can do a little bit extra to fight harder to prove that I should be out there, or now I got to start all over at another program. Now, with what's going on nowadays, I'm pretty sure other schools are talking to kids and talking to parents or whatever the case may be, saying, hey, I can use your kid, he can come over here and he can help us out. Hey, that might be that good situation, and you go on and you transfer. But transferring blind and having to start all over, that's a risk that you're taking, for you with your last 20 games or last 10 games, saying I'm gonna just go somewhere else just because it's not happening for me right there. No, work a little harder. So me personally, I would suggest, hey, if you got an opportunity to go somewhere else and you're going to play and it's guaranteed and you feel like it's a good situation, by all means, I would never hold a kid back. But what happened to, fighting and really proving yourself and trying to get on the field where you are, I'm never opposed to that. And I actually like that type of player. So it just depends on what you got going on.
Gotcha. Yep, makes sense. Makes sense. Everybody has different things that they're trying to evaluate. Just got to do it the right way. Like you said, you
Mhm.
can be in a good situation, just don't know it. And then you go to another school and you're a different area and they like homegrown type guys. And now you're sitting there trying to fight to get in and time isn't happening where you are. And now you set yourself back. So you have to make sure that you cross all T's, dot all I's before you make that type of move. But yeah, families, you got to think about everything. Like I said, 10 games, 20 games to get yourself in the right situation. Just make sure you do your due diligence and do things the right way. So let's go on to topic 2. And we kind of touched on it a little bit, but the recruiting competition and the transfer portal era. Back in the day, you were penalized if you tried to transfer in college, and people didn't want to do that. You could only transfer down to be able to continue playing. You couldn't transfer up, or you had to wait 2 years to get on. Now you can just transfer freely. People have 28 years of eligibility in college. It seems like so. With these high school players,
Feel like it.
that's what it seemed like. 39, still playing. But yeah, with families, they need to realize that too. I know Coy touched on it a little bit. Just getting the right opportunity, getting to the next level is a blessing. And then once you're in there, you can leverage the portal, get some good film, and then be able to move up. I know a couple of kids. One kid that played in our game 2 years ago. He was trying to build exposure, and he was able to get a Division II scholarship after playing in our game. And then he took advantage of that moment, did well, got into the portal, and got a Division I offer at Prairie View this year. So he used the portal the right way, but he used that opportunity to go D2. He didn't have D1 or bust and throw all his eggs in one basket. He was sending his messages out to all levels, Division III, Division II, and more. But a lot of parents are, that's not what I want for my kid. My kid should be Division I. I want them immediately playing ESPN, in 60,000, 70,000 seat stadiums. So let's just go into that. How has the transfer portal changed high school recruiting? And I know we said they're recruiting fewer high school players, but what do high school players need to do to stand out? So they are not pushed aside. What are the things? I know we talked about camps and a few things, but yeah, let's just talk about the portal. Coach, I'll start with you. I know you're at the college level right now, and you've been at multiple colleges. What was it looking like at the collegiate level, and what are the high school players going through?
Shane, I'm gonna just be 100% honest. And it's tough on a high school kid, but the route that is going, the transfer portal, if I can get a kid who's already have 20, 30 games under his belt, that's at least 2 years of football, right? And he got good film, and I can get multiple guys like this. Like you literally have the early signing day period where, you know what I mean, you can bring in, you know what I mean, as many transfer portal guys as you can. Well, excuse me, not the early signing period, but that January, and you can just bring in, multiple, kids from the transfer portal that's already ready made. Coaches are going to go that route because we're always in the win now phase. Like I have to be able to win now phase. I got to keep up with the times, so high school kids, it's tough for them. You literally have to be damn near a 4-star or 5-star, for, college coach to be looking your way, and 3 stars too as well. I'll say that. But if you're not one of those guys where college coaches are banging on your door, it's because of the transfer portal. I can go get a kid right now from Division II. I'll talk about a kid that I coached back in 2022. He was a redshirt freshman, Darrell Jones. No, he was a true freshman. Then he became a redshirt freshman. He played a little bit, but his redshirt sophomore year, he played a lot and he did really good. And next thing you know, he's in the transfer portal playing at a FBS school, Group of 5 school. So, if I can get a kid that was in school for 3 years, that means he's been a part of a weight program for 3 years. I ain't gonna say the nutrition program because like the smaller D2 schools don't have those nutrition programs, but he did everything that he set out to do. He had goals and he said, Coach, I'm gonna come here and then I'm gonna hop in the transfer portal. I'm gonna be playing Division I football. And he set out and he did everything that he said he was going to do. And 3-year guy versus a true freshman playing on the offensive line. Income, who you think you're gonna go with? So yes, the transfer portal, I can go get 11 to 12, and I'm just saying at least 11 to 12 guys from the portal that's already have 20, 30 games under their belt. We're going to look in that direction, but in order to build your program, you still will recruit those high school kids because now it becomes a developmental type of deal. So for example, if at Howard right now, I know I'm not going to keep a kid, that's playing good football all 4 years or even 3 years. And in a situation where my guy Nick Gould, he's a linebacker coach. He had a guy for 2 years. He played good this past season. He at Arkansas right now. And he on the NIL deal. So again, that's a guy who played football for 2 years. And going into his junior year, he's at an SEC school coming from a MEAC school. FCS football to FBS football. That's NIL right there. So, that's a ready-made kid for Arkansas. Arkansas is going to go in that direction and saying, hey, this kid has already played. He's did well. He fits our system. Let's bring that kid in. Same thing. We got a kid who started at Howard in 2 years, and now he's at Clemson. And we have about 6 guys who's come from, FCS Howard that went on this, now are at FBS schools. So it's kind of becoming a developmental thing. So even your recruiting pitch changes, for these kids. Hey, listen, I can get you here, develop you in 2 years. Looking at what we did these past couple of years, you could be one of these guys going to a FBS program and getting NIL money. So yes, it is different. And like I think Coy, you said it, whereas though you can, and Shane, you said it too as well. I think we all refer to it, but yeah, you can you can come in, you can work hard, and then you can work your way up. That's pretty much what it is. And again, just referring back, if I can go get a ready-made kid right now, I'm gonna go do that versus going to get a high school kid. And then I'll come back on the back burner and try to fill out my roster with probably some high school kids, and develop them as well.
Gotcha. Yep, makes sense. You guys got anything on that, Hank or Coy? I know you touched on it already, Coy, but anything else you guys want to add to that?
No, I think Coach just described it. He laid it all out there. I'm not coaching at that level, but just kind of looking at things and kind of watching how things are playing out and what it feels like being on the high school level. He laid it all out there and confirmed kind of what's happening and just what you see. Colleges are recruiting the college level first, where you have kids that they already know how to get up and go to class. They can pass their classes in a college schedule in a college format. They got film against college level players. All those kind of things that, like Coach said, that you got a ready-made guy right there versus you don't know what the high school kid is going to do. He may have done great at the high school level, but you think he's going to do well at college, but as we all know, not everybody ends up making it, and for one reason or another. And so when you have the kid that is already proven and he's doing it at that next level, that's the guy. And so colleges are going that route, and why wouldn't you? Look at Indiana, and people have already laid out their roster and the older kids, and they that's the blueprint, and it just confirmed kind of the route that college football is going. And so that, and like the college level, the NFL, they say, is a copycat league, right? And so people are going to copy that format, that blueprint, that when somebody wins, they have success, you're going to see more people doing that. And so that's the route it's been going. Coach also mentioned, I think that is really important that everybody has to understand this part. When you're a coach, and especially at the college level, it is very transient. And so you lose your kids, to the next college or whatever. You have to have success right now. Nobody's waiting around. Well, let's see what they do in 3 or 4 years. That's in the past. Like that doesn't happen anymore. People want to see, are you going to be able to have success right now? And so the people that the coaches on that level answer to, right? They've got to produce. And so you're forced into that situation where you're going to develop some, like Coach said, but you have to take kids that can go get on the field and play ball and help you have success right then. And so that's just the nature of college sports right now, and so Coach laid it all out there, and it's just confirmation of kind of what the dynamics are with college ball now.
Gotcha.
You did a great job with that, Coach, and I wanted to follow up. Just if you don't mind, Coach, I'm going to ask you another question off of what your statements were, because they were excellent. I say that all the time to kids, but when they hear it from an actual coach, it seems to sink in a little bit more. So considering what you said already, as a coach, when you go to look at those high school football players, what exactly are you looking for? Knowing that the process of looking at the kids has shrunk down so much now because you can only take so many. I'm sure your scope is narrowed down to really what you're looking at real closely. So can you give the kids who are watching this an idea of when you go to a school and you start looking at a high school player, what exactly are you looking at?
Okay. So is this 3 things that, I look for when we start talking about recruiting kids going into high schools? Obviously, I'm going to ask about character. I just want to know, how is this person not just on the field, but off the field, in the community, in the school, and I can ask your coach, but I know I can go ask your teacher. I can ask the lunch lady. I can say, hey, this kid, such and such and such and such. And if this is a kid that I really like and he's a likable guy, he really can play. I'm pretty sure everybody in the school is going on. I can ask an administrator and they'll tell me what it is, and that's something that we look for in character. How is this person? Is he a leader? Do he lead by action? Is he respectful? And then we get into the academic part. Obviously, in order to even play football, you got to have the necessary GPA, and all schools don't have the same requirements. Different schools have different requirements. So you got to fit that part. Is he a strong student? Is he a student that you probably want to have to micromanage? That's something that, as a coach, man, listen, I got 20 kids to worry about. I don't want to have to micromanage 18, 19-year-old as well as my 10-year-old. My 10-year-old, yeah, that's expected. But you being an 18, 19-year-old, I don't want to have to do it. If I have to, then I will. You know what I mean? I've been in those situations, but we want to have a strong student and, meet those requirements. And then obviously the film, if you don't have the first 2, the film is it doesn't even matter. So like for my position, being a assistant D-line coach now and having experience coaching the offensive line, I want my trenches to be, a certain way. I just want them to be physical and I want them to be nasty. So when you film, if you're a defensive lineman, I want to see how fast you get off the ball. I want to see you play with violent hands. I want to see you, be stout against the run as well as, being able to rush the passer. Now, it just depends on where you are. If you are an edge rusher, then yeah, you need to be able to get after the quarterback. If you are interior, you need to be able to push the pocket, you know what I mean, and things of that nature, and be able to take on double teams. So I'm looking at all those things. I'm looking at, good bend, good hips, and a good bend in your hips, your knees, your ankles, all that stuff, man. If you got a Z in the knee and you play with good pad level, you know, and you violent, you know what I mean, you'll have a good chance at being recruited. And it's the same, you know, on the offensive side of the ball. You know, I want to see a guy be able to finish blocks in the run game. I want to see a guy be able to, you know, hold up and protect the quarterback. But you got to play with violent hands. You know, you got to be, you know, you got to be good, you know, a good bender. I always say this all the time. Don't be a waist bender, be a knee bender. You know, these are just, you know, some things that I'm looking for, you know, being a offensive line and a defensive line coach. You know, those are like the most important things to me. If you physical and you nasty, we can coach the technique. We can coach everything else that come along with it. I can't coach heart. I can't coach you to be, you know, violent. You know what I mean? I can motivate you, but then technically I want to be able to say, okay, I'm gonna use the fundamentals to make sure that this guy's technically sound. And that's the developmental part. I'm not trying to get, if I know I'm getting a high school kid, I understand he's gonna have some limitations, but I gotta be able to see the upside. And if I can see the upside in the film, and obviously, you know, seeing these guys at camps, then, you know, those guys would be guys that, you know, we keep in contact with. And just being a guy that's a relationship builder, when I recruit a kid, I really, you know, build a strong foundation for a relationship that's going to last well past your 4 years or however many years that I know you. I still talk to kids that, you know, me and Shan had coached back in 2013 or whatever the case may be. Like I just got finished talking to some of those guys not too long ago. So, you know, just being a relationship builder, and being able to, you know, say that, you know, that kid was a project that I developed and he went on to be not only just a good, you know, football player, but a better individual outside of it. So it all comes with it, man. So I'm looking for the character, the academic piece, and then the film piece.
Gotcha.
That's good stuff, Coach. Thank you.
To
Yeah.
follow up on that, there's a lot of just say defensive linemen out there that feel to get after the run, get after the quarterback and all that, but they might weigh 255. So size automatically might be a thing with Division One. So how often do you see that with the kids? They're reaching out to you, Coach, look at my film. I had 55 sacks and 100 tackles for losses. I'm a Division One kid, and then you see the measurables and it just crosses on the list. Do you get that a lot where you have to be a certain height, have to be a certain weight, and you just tell them?
Yes. And listen, I hate for it to be that way, but sometimes that's just what it have to be. You're gonna in a FCS, even in the MEAC, you're gonna go up against some 6'7" and 6'8" offensive linemen that weigh 320 pounds. So I can't have a 6 foot, 245 pound interior going up against these guys. I have to look for something, that's. Well, hold on. Yeah, I have to look for those guys. And one of the things, being a position coach is there's a hierarchy. You have your defensive coordinator. So your defensive coordinator will lay out, hey, look, man, I want to be big, stout in the middle, yada, 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 this, that, and the third. And then, as a position coach, you got to say, okay, what does that look like? And, right now, and I would say, coming into Howard, we had a guy who just, committed to Oregon. He's 6'5", 295. You know what I mean? So, that's the interior. If I can get a guy like that, awesome. You know what I mean? Now, I will say this, there will be some guys that might be 6'1", 6'2", but they playing like they 6'5", 300 pounds, and then you take into account like, hey, look, you know what? That kid plays bigger than his measurables. And you say, that's a kid that, I can say, I can pitch that to the defensive coordinator. You know what I mean? So again, you have like your measurables. So like for me, interior wise, I want you to be at least 6'3" and up. 270. Let's say you 6'3" and you 255. All right, you can come in the summertime, probably put on 15, 20 pounds, and now you are where we want you to be. So that's not a thing as well. I understand that you're not going to always get the guy that's 6'5", 280 you know, his body is defined right out of high school. You might have to get a guy that's 260, but you see he has the framework to be able to put on those 20 pounds, and you work that guy to make sure that he get, you know, to that weight level. So yeah, it is, measurables is a thing. You know, parents, listen to me now. And when I look on the board, I see 6'3", 275. I'm gonna say, okay, yeah, that's a kid I can bring in. If I also see 6 foot and then I see 240, I'm probably gonna look at that guy. You know, if their talent is the same, I'm probably gonna take the guy with the better measurables. It's just, you know, that's just the way it is.
Gotcha. And I know, Coy, you do a lot of talks with your players, and then a lot of college coaches come in. Is it hard having those conversations with the parents and players when you know these schools want this height and they want this weight? Do the parents understand that, or is that a pushback like, well, it doesn't matter because my kid is athletic and make these plays? What's some of the feedback that you hear from your parents?
I think eventually they start to see and understand, you know, as they come up through and start to see kind of which guys are getting some traction with the college level or those kind of things, and or you know when you're playing in the bigger games and or in the playoffs and those kind of things, you know, and you start matching up against some of the teams, you start to realize, hey, it's a big world out there, and there's a lot of guys and a lot of guys with measurables and those kind of things. And so a lot of that kind of plays itself out. But you know, sometimes initially, maybe having the thought or idea that maybe they can go play at the next level at a certain, you know, say Division 1 level, but you know, you're kind of looking like, well, the measurables might not be there. Now, we won't ever tell a kid, hey, you can't do that, because hey, we want them aspiring to be whatever they can be. And there is okay those cases where sometimes, like Coach said, you know, hey, go play yourself in. Maybe you got to go to a D3 or D2. You're the undersized guy, and but you do go put it on film and you're doing it at the next level. Well, people are going to see that and take notice and get your opportunity that way. I mean, I was myself somebody who was considered undersized all the time. And so, you know, I always had to continue to prove myself. You know, there's some guys that they get opportunity because they have measurables, right? That wasn't the case with me. I always had to play myself into position and play myself onto the field. And so, you know, there's that case, but those are the things when it comes to measurables. You know, coach is right. I mean, it is a factor. I mean, there's no way around it. It is a factor. But you can, it doesn't mean that you can't get to a D3, go compete, have fun playing ball. Maybe it leads to something else or maybe not, right? But you get to go have fun playing ball, get an education at the same time, network with people and all of that for whatever you get into after college. And so you know, that's I think people lose sight of that in the end. Your athletic career is going to be a very small part of your life. And so, you know, yes, enjoy getting to compete and play while you can and put yourself in good situations that way and have fun with it. But no, it will end at some point. And so, what Coach was hitting on, the character and being a good person and all those kind of things, that's what's going to stand long after. And that's the things that's going to put you in a position to have success when athletics ends. And so you know, injuries happen, all kind of things happen. And so yeah, chase it and have fun chasing it and all of those kind of things while you can, but keep things in perspective that way. And you know, it is going to be a very small part of your life in the grand scheme of things. You know, it's going to be a block of, you know, 5 to 10 years or whatever that is. And, you know, enjoy it, make the most of it while you can, because it can lead to other opportunities beyond that. Right. And open some doors. But, you know, just enjoy that process. And I think I see a lot of people just get too stressed out over it. and instead of having fun going through that process and enjoying it while you can.
Yep, no doubt, no doubt.
Mhm.
So
Good stuff.
last thing I kind of want to touch on is, I know everybody talks about what do I have to do to get the scholarship? You know, what are the steps I need to take? But they rarely talk about once I get it, how do I stay there? I talked to a coach at one of our camps, and he was like, "It's a business now." And he's like, "I brought a kid in as a transfer, getting good NIL money. He couldn't crack the top 3 positions, so we told him get in the transfer portal and get up out of here." So, with that said, you break through. You're a freshman. You get on the team. You have a scholarship. How do you keep it? Because when I was going through, it seemed like you just had a 4-year scholarship. You're there. You got your degree after your 4 years. No matter if you started, you might have been a backup, to someone, all 4 years, but you kind of remain with the team. Is it that way now, or is it more semester to semester, year to year? You could be kicked out of there, and now you have to find that other opportunity. So, what's the landscape now with college sport? Once you get on the team, how do you stay on the team?
Well, I mean, obviously, is rules, rules and regulations to all scholarships. So, Shane, even though it felt like it was 4 years and then you graduate, it still was a year to year type thing. You know what I mean? So, like, you still have to uphold your credit semesters. You got to have 24, in the year. You got to, maintain a certain GPA. All of that stuff still applies. The thing is, injuries happen. And, guys got to understand you're not going to lose a scholarship because of injury. That's just not the case. But you really have to mess up for your scholarship to be pulled. And it could be, and when we talk about character, we talk about academics, it really falls in line with one of those things. You know what I mean? How are you when it comes to doing everything that comes with that scholarship? That's with school and that's with football. That it's a lot to uphold that scholarship. So you come in transition from high school to college, you know, Corey talked about it earlier with the schedules and things, like that's a big part of it. You're now, when you come in the summertime and then transition to August for camp, you are now waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning for mandatory breakfast. You know what I mean? So that means you need to be going to sleep at a decent hour to be able to start that schedule. And then you have your first meeting, and then you might have your first practice. So, and so on and so on and so on, all the way up until bed checks, which is at 10 o'clock or 10:30, depending on your program. So that's the first 2 weeks, of your college experience and being able to uphold your scholarship. So now after those 2 weeks, now you got school incorporated, you got classes incorporated. So not only do you still have to get up probably for a morning workout session, it's not going to be at no 6 or 7 o'clock, but you might have well, actually, it could be at that time. Honestly, when I was at Bowie, shoot, we was having 5, 6 o'clock, 6 a.m. workouts, and or whatever the case may be. But it wasn't every day. So now you have football to uphold. You have school and going to classes, and still having to go to meetings, and then still having to go to practice, and then still having to eat, find time to do that, and then find time to sleep. You know what I mean? So if you mess up at any point with any of those stuff, I mean, obviously it gets recorded. As a position coach, our head coach used to tell us, hey, when these guys miss something, I need to document it. So when we come back at the end of the year and we do those exit interviews, we need to see who's doing what they supposed to do and who's not doing what they supposed to do and hold them accountable. If you don't have that documentation, you really can't hold that kid accountable, because for that kid, he gonna say, well, I didn't miss that much. And now you got to prove that. And if you don't have that documentation and you pull in the scholarship, well, who's going to look like they in the wrong?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, all of that stuff is what, you know, you have to do diligently. You have to be on time for everything. You have to be at practice for everything. You need to be in school, not miss. If you got tutoring sessions, you need to meet with your tutors. If you need to meet with the academic coordinator, meet with the academic coordinator to go over grades. And those are the things that you have to uphold, you know, in order for you to continue that scholarship into your sophomore year.
Sound like time management. You're talking more about time management more than anything, Coach.
There you go. Time management is the key in all that. And you have to really find your niche into how you're gonna, you know, go about, your schedule. Everybody is different. You might have a kid who, for whatever reason, can sleep for 4 hours and still do everything that they need to do. Now, is that the right thing to be doing? Absolutely not. But you may be a kid who's not a morning person. So you might need to go to bed a little early so that you can carry out everything that needs to be carried out throughout your day. From August all the way until whenever your goal of being a national champion is, which could be December if you had an HBCU, and then it could be a little later in January if you had the FBS program, whatever the case may be. So yeah, man, it's time management is the biggest part in all of that. And again, you have your coaches that can help you out with these things. I had a kid that I literally had to, see on Wednesdays to make sure that he's going to all his classes, he's going to all his tutoring sessions, and that really helped him become, a better student, than he was, than when I met him a year ago. So again, it just all depends on that person, what works for you, to be able to carry out that strenuous schedule.
Gotcha. And I know, Coach, you played at a high level, obviously. How was that transition for you when you got to college? Were you prepared? I know your family all went through it, so I know you kind of had that background, but how difficult was it for you when you made that transition from high school to college?
Well, I think it's an adjustment for anybody, right? Because you go from high school to college, then the self-discipline and with the time management and all those kind of things becomes a big deal. Just like Coach and Hank and we're describing there, and so you really have to get a routine, fall into that, and then just stick to it, and just but. Coach said you got to know who you are, know what things you need to do to be able to get everything done that you need to get done. And so there is going to be adjustment for everybody because you're on your own now. And so nobody's waking you up. You got to get up and all those kind of things. Your class schedule. You got to get there. There's not you're at school and you're just there. Right. I mean, you go to school, go to class, you may go home for a little bit and then you're back at another class or whatever. So it's, it's your self-discipline becomes a big deal. And I think all of that goes back to what Coach said, why that character is the first thing they're looking at, is because if you have good character, you're a good person. Number one, you care about yourself and who you are and how you do things, and then also you care about others and you're considerate of the people around you. And when you are that, you're not going to let others down, and you're going to find a way to do what you need to do to get whatever it is done that you need done. And you're going to have that discipline because you're doing it for something bigger than yourself. And so that piece is so important, the character, and developing that self-discipline and self-motivation. And the sooner you can do that, the better. Hopefully you can be getting some of that done in high school. So it's not as big of an adjustment when you go to college. There will be some adjustment regardless, but the more you can get things in place in high school, the better, so that when you get there, there's not as many things that you're having to adjust to. But it really all goes back to your character and time management and self-discipline.
Yep, no doubt, no
Okay.
doubt. Yeah, yep. Like I said, that's big. I wanted the families to hear that because you put so much into how do I get seen? How do I get the scholarship? Now you got to know what it takes once you get there. So I appreciate that feedback. That was actually the last topic I wanted to go on, kind of talking about building exposure and then the competition with the NIL and then keeping that scholarship and things that you need to do. I know it's ever, changing every year, the landscape. So families just have to stay on top of it and just make sure that they're aware and do things the right way.
I'm sorry. It's one thing I do want to talk about with the transfer portal, because this has happened so many times. Being at Bowie State, won a small Division II school in the CIAA. One of the biggest things I would say is if you don't have film, you should not be hopping in the transfer portal. Let me repeat that again. If you do not have film, you should not be hopping in the transfer portal coming from a Division II school, with no film. It just doesn't make sense. And a lot of kids do that. Now, what happens when you leave your school and jump in a transfer portal? Once you do that, you forfeit whatever athletic aid scholarship that you was getting from that school. That money is no longer yours. So if you get in the portal and then nothing turns up for you and you want to go back to your school do not have to, be responsible for the athletic aid that you was receiving. They no longer are responsible for giving that out to you. So now you got to figure out how you're going to pay whatever that X amount of dollars was, to remain in school, first and foremost, to be a part of the football program. So a lot of people just be acting off emotions or looking at what's going on Twitter or on the TV screen, and it's like, hey, some guys at an FBS school who might have good practice film, they might want to leave, and they might have a better chance at being recruited and going into another school. But being at a small Division II school, a HBCU school, with no film, you're going to get lost in the portal. And again, when your season is over, because remember, Division II schools, Division III schools, you only get 10 games guaranteed. So if you're not playing no extra games, your season is over second week of November. That means you're in a portal before guys who are still playing up until December and January. So if it's 6,000 guys in the portal after 10 games in November, imagine what that number looks like when the season is over in January for all of college football. That go to 10, 12,000, and you're getting stuck in there with people who have film, who have destinations on, colleges that are actually looking into them. You're going out there on a limb, taking a chance with no film coming from a small school. It just doesn't make sense. So just be mindful when you leave a program that's giving you some type of athletic aid. And I didn't want to say full scholarship because some schools just don't have it in Division II to give out a full scholarship. They can zero out your balance. You know what I mean? And that's a whole nother thing when it comes to, we talk about being recruited and everybody looks for the full scholarship, but don't pay attention to having a zero balance, your college career. So yeah, transfer portal, have film, especially if you're coming from these small schools. I mean, if somebody talking to you on the side or whatever the case may be, if that's what's going on and you want to take that chance, by all means, do what you feel like is best for you. But again, you get stuck in that portal, not having no film and coming from these small schools.
Gotcha. Yep. And that's something that's important, because if you have to get your shot at that smaller level, then you have to make sure it's the right move to go up. Just because you got that 1 year, 2 year, but you don't have the film, like I said, there's so many kids that are out there just trying to get that.
I can't hear you.
You can't hear me? Can you guys hear me?
I can
Yep,
hear.
I can hear you.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh, shit,
Yeah, I can hear you, Mo. But yeah, that's what it is. You got to make sure it's the right situation. So I know we're a little bit past 10, and I don't want to keep you guys up too long. I know everybody got to work in the morning, but I feel it's important to touch on these things. Every Monday, we're jumping on this and having different topics, and I think we went over a lot of great
I
things.
can't hear y'all.
Okay, it's all good. So I just want to, kind of stop here now. Hank, I know you said you kind of wanted to touch in a little bit and kind of do like a overall follow up with everything we went over. So let me open the floor to you for about 4 minutes, get to like 10:15 our time, and then kind of wrap this up. So just give me your feedback on some of that, and then we'll go from there.
Well, I don't even need to take that much time because Coach Detmer and Coach Mo, I mean, they covered a lot of great stuff. I mean, actually, I can imagine having a conversation with these guys for 4 or 5 hours because I think we've only scratched the surface with the knowledge these guys have and what they could really deliver to these kids and parents out here. But y'all did a great job. I appreciate y'all guys coming on, and I'd really give the time to them because they're giving us some really good information right now.
Yeah, definitely. So I appreciate you guys getting on. I will have this recorded and I will put it out there for families so they can see more. Anybody who wasn't able to see the live, get the recording. A lot of great information. So I thank you guys for jumping on. I did the first one by myself. Coach Hank got on and did the second one with me and said, let's start bringing in some guests that are well connected, that have been through the process, that can give wealth of information. So you guys definitely exceeded everything that we're looking for. Great information that families can take and use, and athletes can build from that and use that knowledge that you guys spilled over to them. So I thank you guys for jumping on. Do you guys have 10 seconds, anything that you guys just want to leave as a last parting word for these athletes out there?
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you for having me on to be able to do this, and I would love to do it again and help out wherever I can. And also, Shane, I can email you something that you possibly could use that could help parents with what a recruiting profile should look like. It's something that I used at when I was at Dover High School, and it literally has like everything, measurables, talent, like a quick bio, or a summary of the kid or whatever the case may be. But I could send that to you, and that probably could be of help to some of these parents who have to go out and probably market on them on their own.
Okay, yeah, I appreciate that. Please shoot that over to me. And families, they know we're posting a lot about their kids, their videos, they tag us in it, it's back out there. There's a lot of college coaches that follow the program, want to see hidden gems, and we want to give them a lot of resources. So please send that over and I can get that out to families. Let me just go to you, Coach, finally. Any last thing you want to say to players out there? You've been through the process, played at the highest level, NFL, so many college coaches, you've been coaching high-level kids with major offers. Just a parting message to the athletes that are out there.
No, first, appreciate y'all having me on. And, I think this is really a good thing that you guys are putting together and getting good information for kids and the parents, and to kind of know what the expectations are out there, and what the dynamics and the landscape is of college ball and college recruiting right now, because it definitely is changing, and it's much different than it was even a few years ago. And so I think it's real informative, and all of that. And for the kids, just keep marketing yourself. You have to take control of some of your things. You can't just think somebody's going to find you, or it's all on a coach to put you out there. You have to be doing your part with that, and help put together your highlight films. Help like they were talking about with the social media. Do the right things there. Make sure you're doing good things on the social media things, and all of that, and then setting it up the right way, and market yourself. But you really do have to, in a way, you got to go recruit the colleges. And so it's just the way it is nowadays. And so, stay the course, keep working, but also at the same time, get in front of the coaches and the college coaches, and do your part to put yourself out there.
Gotcha.
I do want to add one thing, Shannon, for you guys out there, you kids that are the D1 players, but you're stuck in a program. You may be a running back that don't have an offensive line, and you're not getting the numbers, but you are that level. People are going to see you. Put yourself in good positions. Go to the camps like we talked about. talk to some people. You hear this all the time. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And I tell you what, guys, that couldn't be more important about this conversation we're having tonight than that statement right there. I know a lot of guys. This networking aspect of this what we're doing right now, I think, is huge. When you go to these camps, it's all about networking more than anything. Finding the right people, developing those relationships, getting the social media accounts, talking to those guys. You'd be surprised who you can run into. You can run into people like Reggie Buchanan. I brought his name up a couple of times tonight because that guy's people like him. You got to make sure they're honest and trustworthy. But people like that are game changers for those kids that are not in just the right situation with their high school, but are that athlete. Those guys can put you in front of the right people, whether it's a D1 school, whether it's a D2 or D3, wherever you need to go, find the right people and network yourself with good people. Surround yourself with good people. That's the key. You are who you hang around, and steel sharpens steel. So don't be afraid to be great. I tell the kids all the time, don't be afraid to be great. You know you're good, but you're afraid to go to these rival camps because you don't know how it's going to turn out. Throw all that stuff to the wind. Go in there, give it your best shot, and see where you land. That's the only way you're going to know what you need to work on and where you stand. And I tell this to a lot of kids. Everything good happens after failure and embarrassment, guys. Don't be afraid to be great. Go out there, take a chance, and if you fail and you get embarrassed, at least you learned what to fix and how to work on it. And the next time you do it, that builds success. So that would be my closing statement on the night. And I can't thank you coaches enough for being here. Y'all guys are amazing, great careers. You're doing great things for kids all over the country, and God bless you guys.
I appreciate
Thank
you,
you.
man. I appreciate y'all for having me on.
Okay.
Yep, thank you.
Guys. Appreciate you guys. And we'll follow up with you. Invite you guys back in, periodically, and just continue sharing some information. So
We're going to have Coy back here after he wins that state championship for sure, showing off that state ring, right, Coy?
Sam, make sure you send me the email you want me to send that info to you.
Okay. Yep.
All right.
I'll text you. All right. Thank you guys once again.
Appreciate y'all. Take it easy.
Thank you guys. God bless you.
Thank you.